Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of This Week in the World of Football. This is episode number 277 for January 3rd, 2023, our first podcast of the year. I'm your host, Randy Snow. On today's show, last night's Monday Night Football game was postponed after a serious injury in the first quarter, and we now know the matchups for the College Football National Championship game. In this week's history lesson, we answer the burning question, what in the world is a Coastal Carolina Chanticleer? But I'm not here by myself. Across the table for me, as always, is my son Adam.
With a brand new microphone we're trying out, so We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, you and I have been using the same style microphone for a couple of years now, and then you just bought a new one because you couldn't get the echo out of your old one.
Well, we'll see. If it echoes, it's going to be your computer. But you also did buy a new computer, so we're going to figure this problem out one way or the other to start off the year.
Yeah, I got to do a lot of setup on the new computer, so maybe next week we'll have it working for the show.
Maybe, but Happy New Year. But, man, we're starting this year off with a very, very tough story to talk about.
A real somber atmosphere over everything after last night's Monday night game. It was kind of tough to watch, and I stayed. After they postponed the game, I stayed up and watched a lot of the commentary afterwards for another hour or so.
Yeah, I went to bed not knowing the injury was that serious. I laid in bed, and I guess we're just gonna get into it now. I laid in bed and saw the highlight. What happened, and a very scary thing, but obviously all thoughts and well wishes out to. Everybody who was there, to especially the individual. Damar Hamlin, who, 24 years old, prime of his, career, and to have that happen, very scary. Luckily in the hospital, apparently, I won't say, the last I saw, he was still nothing like a big update, but he's still, progressing, so we'll see. Any minute we could get a big update, or it could be a while. But just very scary stuff last night, and to see all the broadcasters and hear all the broadcasters, and just having to kind of go off the cuff during something this.
I felt bad for Susie Colbert and the people that she was with. They kept throwing it to her, and she didn't know what to say, and the guys in the booth didn't know what to say. They were totally unprepared for anything like this, as you would expect.
Right.
Nobody was expecting anything like this. You never do, but it did happen, and it was a very uncomfortable situation for the rest
some
of
the
evening.
best I heard, at least as I was driving into work this morning. I could hear on ESPN they were playing the Scott Van Pelt talking with Ryan Clark, who was a former player. I believe he played with the Steelers. Everything I heard from that clip, whatever they chose to play from that conversation they had, I think Scott Van Pelt is one of the better sportscasters out there anyway. And I think Ryan Clark did a good job, kind of in that moment, talking about everything going on. And, this definitely, I think, opened a lot of people's eyes, I think, like we take football for granted, and to have something scary like this happen, when real life, steps in, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. We are playing a game.
Right.
And the most important thing should be these guys' health, and that's the big thing. So it was encouraging also seeing the Buffalo fans and the Cincinnati fans that went to the hospital that day. Then I heard the story about how Stephon Diggs, the wide receiver for the Bills, took an Uber to the hospital after the game and tried to get in, and they wouldn't let him in at first. I think a reporter had to say, no, he's a teammate. Like, we can vouch for him. Yeah. And I guess they eventually let him in. But and then one of my other favorite stories that kind of spun out of this, tragedy is the player who, his name, I can't believe it's escaping me. We've been talking about him all day. I've been reading everything about him.
Damar Hamlin,
his charity, he was like, he had a goal of like $2,500 for, I forget if it was like a toys. It sounded like a children's charity.
Yeah,
Toy drive, and that's all he wanted. It was like $2,500. That was his goal. And it has just climbed. I believe last I checked, it was like over $3 million donated. So, everybody's been stepping up, and it's just, that's been a cool aspect of this story. But
I think you have to look at it this way. Yes, he had a major incident on the field. His heart stopped, but they had medical teams right there that knew what they were doing, and they were able to resuscitate him on the field and get him to a hospital, which was a few miles away. So I think the medical care these days is awesome. You've got people that are standing by who really know what they're doing in some of these cases, because football is a dangerous game. I mean, we look at it and we enjoy the violence of it, but at the same time, it's dangerous for the players at times. And when things like this happen, thank goodness there are medical professionals on hand that know what the heck they're doing and are able to step in and take over the situation. And hopefully we'll have a positive outcome from this whole situation in the next few days. But yeah, 20, 30 years ago, the medical staff wouldn't have known what to do in a situation like this. So thank goodness the technology is there. They realize that they need that on hand at all these games, and luckily they are there for this sort of thing.
And something that seems to be just happening like within the last half hour on Twitter was all 32 NFL teams have now changed their profile picture to the same Pray for DeMar number 3 jersey profile picture. So it's cool seeing the unity. There was some question last night if the NFL was really trying to restart the game. There was some rumor going around that they gave the teams 5 minutes, to get prepared to play again, and then it sounds like the two coaches just.
I think the coaches and the players
said
we really
no,
don't feel up to playing anymore after this.
So I don't know if that's true or not, if the NFL did say that, or if there was I haven't seen any clarification on that yet. But, I mean, regardless, I think all the players, that were there and the coaching staffs, everybody in the stadium handled it, about as well as you could in a scary situation like that. And, I mean, I think the league could have canceled the game sooner, but at least they did cancel it, and the last news was that there is no plan to replay this game yet, especially this week. So we'll see what that means. We'll see if it's just going to go down as a no contest. Is it going to be a did not finish?
Right.
Are they going to erase the stats that happened? Are they going to keep the stats that happen? Like, all that is so secondary to just worrying about DeMar
at this point.
At this point. But I know all those are still all questions that I think even as you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, I want that guy to be okay. But, of course, those questions are going to linger and probably sit in the back of a lot of people's minds. Like, well, how is it going to work? We're very curious what the next step is for the NFL. But it does sound like we're going to be having to wait. It's going to be an hour by hour, minute by minute changing situation. And depending on his health, too, I mean, who knows, which way that could go.
If this had happened earlier in the season, I could see where they might have been able to reschedule it somehow, somewhere.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. With COVID, like a lot of that stuff happened at the beginning of the year, so they could move a lot of stuff towards the end of the year. But with this being a week, week 18 is next week. It's the last week.
Right.
It is going to be hard to schedule it. Move this in.
I don't see how they can.
I personally think just leave it canceled. I would almost even say any stats from that game just null and void them, whatever. Just say, hey, we're just going to go down. This is going to go down as
a no contest.
A no contest, a 0-0, no contest, no stats. Everything that did happen, just strike it from the record.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing, when somebody gets injured on the field and they take them off either on a cart or even on a stretcher. If they're conscious and if they're talking to their players, that's one thing. That's a whole different attitude when you see your teammate get injured. But when he left the field last night, they didn't know what was going to happen in the next hour
of
or so.
CPR.
Yeah.
And his teammates sitting there watching the whole thing, seeing
the video. They had a front row for all of that.
Yeah.
They were right there. The cameras didn't show it, and the players kind of wanted to shield it. But they got that overhead camera. They could have been watching everything. I don't know if they actually.
But seeing Josh Allen, just and how can you expect a player to go out after something like that and play? That'd be like I saw some people on Twitter say that'd be like us going to work and having something like that happen.
Yeah.
And then your boss going, all right, we'll get back to. What do you? No. So I'm glad that they didn't end up finishing that game last night, just for that reason. There's no way those guys could have been mentally focused, even though I heard that Stephon Diggs was trying to psych people up, but it was just as much as he might have tried. I think it was you know what, maybe we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So obviously thoughts and prayers to DeMar Hamlin. man, and obviously we'll be checking. I'll keep checking my phone for any updates.
Oh yeah.
During the show, see if something new happens. But as of right now, not a whole lot's changed other than, the NFL just saying, there's been some statements released. I see a Roger Goodell statement. Haven't taken the time to sit down and read it.
Yeah, that came out a little while ago. I read that, and that's the one where he said, we have no plans to replay it at this time.
Right, and I don't
meaning
even know
they
how,
haven't made a decision on
right.
it, but I don't see how they can with only 1 week to go.
Right.
You can't push the season back a week because that's going to mess up with the Super Bowl and all that. So I think this is just going to go as a no contest.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
Yep. So, and as hard as it is to transition from something that, everybody was watching it last night. Everybody's talking about it now.
Yep.
All anybody can think about, as much as, people are looking forward to the next week's slate of games. I mean, as of right now, it's like I'm not even thinking about.
I'm not either.
Like next weekend, and I was up till that point, and now it's kind of been like, there's that realization that that hits you, and it's like there are more important things at stake, and a player's life is something that I think we're all thinking about. It's unfortunate, but I mean, I'd rather everybody be cognizant and thoughtful of that as opposed to just brushing it aside and like, well, let's talk about the football. That's unfortunately what we're gonna
That's exactly what
have
we're
to
gonna
do. I mean, it's the nature of sports podcasts. Like, I mean, we could probably do a whole show on that, but our goal is also to entertain and to still kind of go on as is, but not forget what happened.
Yeah, and we've always tried to stay away from the sad stories in sports. Players getting shot on the street at a friend's house or something. We've always tried to stay away from that stuff. This is supposed to be a fun podcast, but
every once in a great while
you can't ignore what happened last night.
Every once in a great while you get something like this, and it's unfortunate, and it just became that big, and it's hard to not talk about.
Yep.
Especially in the sport that we love, because like my favorite phrase of yours is, "Football is life, but it is not life and death." And that I think that's always stuck with me once you utter those words. Because we
love the game.
Yep.
But it's not worth.
It gets to a point. It gets to the point when somebody's life is on the line, all that other stuff goes out the window, and there is a human being,
Yeah, and I don't even know if they can make any rule changes for this, because the tackle that he made did not look that bad.
No.
I've seen a lot worse. I've seen people get really plastered.
The scary part is he stood right up.
Right.
And then that's when the scary thing happened. It was that just sudden collapse, and that was the scariest thing to me.
Yeah.
And how can you can't protect against that? Who knows if he has I am no medical person. I have no idea, I would fail a med class in a heartbeat, but who knows what kind of medical condition
could have been something
that
he had that never showed up in any of the physicals that they've had. Even they run these guys through all kinds of tests in the NFL, but every once in a while there are things that are there that they don't catch.
Right.
So it could have been something that he's always had with him, that just in that moment it decided to flare up, or whatever.
Yeah. There's several different possibilities, but it would be very irresponsible of us, I think, to even speculate.
Right. Yeah.
Like, other than thinking like it could be a pre-existing condition. I really don't know what else. I mean, you said you talked to a doctor person just in passing today.
I had a doctor appointment this morning, and I was talking with the doctor about this sort of thing, and he ran down several scenarios, because I guess he watched it, and so he kind of knew what happened and what the possible causes were of this thing, and he went through like 3 or 4 of them with me, and he said, well, it could have been this, and it could have been this, but the best thing they could have done is sedate him and get the tube in his throat to so that they could control his breathing. They got his vital signs back, and so it sounds like from my doctor that they did exactly what they needed to do, and everything went as it should. So I came away from that brief conversation feeling good about the situation. That the medical professionals that were there did exactly what they were supposed to do. Everything went the way it was supposed to go, and now it's just a matter of time, for his vital signs to get back up, and they'll probably bring him out of the sedation and see how he is.
Yeah.
So, I felt better after that, but like I said, that's this one doctor's opinion. But who knows?
Who knows?
He knows more than I do.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm going to keep an eye out. If there's any breaking stuff during the podcast, I'll mention it, but I'm sure everybody's going to get alerts. They're going to be, anybody who's, been even keeping one eye on this situation is going to see something. It's going to be everywhere. So,
right.
I guess with that, we have the incredibly difficult task of transitioning.
Well,
but I know you still got some of your opening spiel to go, and we're about 16 minutes into the show.
Let's just continue on with what we were going to do anyway. So let me go back to the beginning and go. We come to you each week from the fabulous World of Football Man Cave, located right here in the center of the football world, Kalamazoo, Michigan. We're here to promote the game of football in all its many forms, past, present, and future. Our goal is to educate, inform, and entertain our listeners with the glorious buffet that is the world of football. All this while keeping a close eye on the rich history of the game. I want to thank you for checking out our podcast. We'd love to get your feedback on one of our many platforms: Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, where we post the entire audio portion of this show, as well as other selected videos. We're also on Amazon Music as of a few weeks ago, so you can simply ask your Alexa to play the World of Football podcast. Let's begin today's show with with Adam.
Continue the show.
Let's continue on with Adam and the World of Football scoreboard.
Yeah, hard to follow up the opening conversation.
Yep.
But we're gonna try to breeze through this. Give whatever thoughts we can on the game. It is a game, people, of football, and of course, all thoughts to man, I can't believe I keep
Damar Hamlin.
Damar Hamlin. I've been reading it and trying to remember it all day long, and it just, I've since watching that clip last night, I've been uneasy. I wasn't even sure if we should have done the podcast today. We've already decided to delay our weekly picks video by a day, just to see the developing situation with the NFL.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen in the next few
days.
So
we're kind of just going to play it. We thought at least get the podcast out and go from there.
Yeah, we'll see tomorrow. What's going on?
What changes? So I guess with that, we will look at what happened this past week in the NFL. It was Week 17. It started Thursday night and saw the Cowboys defeat the Titans 27-13. I thought the Cowboys looked rather sharp in their all-white uniforms. It was like the little giant style Cowboys jersey, which I've always been a fan of. Not that I've been a fan of the Cowboys. They rock the white helmet shell with the typical Dallas Cowboys logo, which I like. I guess some Cowboys fans didn't like it. One lady let me know on Twitter she didn't like it. Whatever, lady. But, I mean, the Cowboys looking pretty decent here at the end of the year, and the Titans kind of crumbling, but their postseason lives are on the line next weekend against the Jaguars. So, not that this game mattered to the Titans. I think a win would have been great either way. But they and their backup quarterback they had in there, Dobbs. I think was it Josh Dobbs?
I'm not sure.
But I'm trying to figure out his name real fast. But
Dobbs was the last name.
Dobbs was his last name, and I'm trying to quickly, if the NFL app would work with me here. Let's see. His name was Joshua Dobbs. So he had a decent game. I thought he looked sharp for most of it. He was 20 of 39 for 232 yards and a touchdown and an interception. His parents were in the stands. They got memed because the mom was kind of bunched up in a big old winter coat there in Tennessee. Just kind of looking like, yep, she's at a football game, and she didn't seem too thrilled, but
got to be there to support.
She supported her kid, and I guess there were some travel stories there about them trying to get to Tennessee, which sounded fun or crazy because it almost didn't happen, but it worked out. So the Titans, looks like they might lean Dobbs instead of rookie Malik Willis there for their season finale next weekend against the Jaguars. But then we're going to move on. The Atlanta Falcons got a last-second field goal victory over the Arizona Cardinals, 20-19. What's funny about this is it's in the exact same stadium that another college football playoff game. We're going to talk about a college football game later. On a missed field goal that happened in that exact stadium, and boy, did the Falcons troll them by saying, now that's how you hit a game winner in this stadium, and that was pretty funny. The Jacksonville Jaguars walked all over the Houston Texans 31-3. The Kansas City Chiefs survived the Denver Broncos 27-24. How about that? Denver kind of coming alive this past week.
Yeah, the few times I checked in on that game, Denver was ahead.
Yeah.
And,
Kansas City found a way.
Came through, yep.
The New England Patriots got a victory over the Miami Dolphins 23-21. The New York Giants had their way with the Indianapolis Colts 38-10. The New Orleans Saints upset the Philadelphia Eagles 20-10, which is a very big deal.
Yeah.
Shaking up the NFC playoff picture.
Yeah.
Just craziness there by the Eagles losing. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers secured the NFC South by beating the Carolina Panthers 30-24. The Panthers were up for most of that game.
Carolina was up most of that game.
But darn it, Tom Brady does what Tom Brady does and helped that team claw back. The Cleveland Browns defeated the Washington Commanders 24-10. Our Detroit Lions embarrassed the Chicago Bears 41-10 to give the Lions a little bit of, motivation for next weekend.
That puts them at 8-8 for the season.
And I wanted 6 wins, and we've got 8.
I've been saying for years I just want them to be 500. Well, here they are with 1 week to go, and they are 500. Win or lose next week. This has been a great season for Detroit. They really blew it in the first half of the season, going 1-6.
But I think, regardless, going into the offseason, even if you lose, that's 7 of your last 10 games you won.
Right.
Total turnaround at the end of the year.
Well, they played well early in the season too. The Seattle game that you were at, 48-45.
Yeah.
Detroit scores 45 points and loses, and they had so many close games. If they had won all those close games early in the season, man, they'd have 12, 13, 14 wins by now.
Let's not get too crazy.
But I'm just saying, they did play well early. They just weren't winning, and now they're playing well again, and they are winning. So it really gives me hope for next year, whether they make the playoffs or not, because the scenario of who's got to win, who's got to lose this coming week is...
we could maybe briefly touch on that, but I mean... If you've got a team, and you already know the scenario of your teams.
Right.
So there's only 3 NFC teams left,
right?
I think alive. So we'll get into that little scenario. I'm not sure about the AFC scenarios, to be honest with you.
There's one opening left.
Okay.
That I know of.
Okay. Well, all right. Maybe the NFL app will have those scenarios.
I don't want to delve too deep into them, but
we'll see. But to continue on with the scores, other than, hey, how about them Lions on Sunday? I mean, Aiden Hutchinson getting another interception.
Yeah, well, it's easy to win in Detroit now. The crowd is behind the team. Again, they sold standing room only tickets to that place, so that was another sellout. That was like the 3rd one this year. When they're at home, they're pretty much unstoppable.
I think, regardless, next year, I think the hype will be real for that opening part of the year. I bet you we get a couple sellouts early on in the season.
Well, hopefully we'll get some national television games also.
And we'll talk about that in a little bit, too. All right. The San Francisco 49ers defeated the Las Vegas Raiders 37-34. The Lions definitely needed the Jets to win, which they didn't, as the Seahawks beat them 23-6. The Seahawks winning did not help Detroit out too much, but again, we'll talk about that scenario in a second. The Green Bay Packers had their way with the Minnesota Vikings 41-17.
Minnesota looked pretty bad.
Yeah, all around. And Aaron Rodgers didn't even throw for 200 yards passing in that game. That's the other crazy thing. They scored 41 points, and Aaron Rodgers only threw for 160 yards.
Well, yeah, they took him out late in the game, too, and they put in, what's his name, Love.
So, yeah. I mean, when your defense has an interception return and a kickoff return, that doesn't help.
Yep.
And then in the Battle of L.A., the Chargers defeated the Rams 31-10. And then in Sunday Night Football, the Pittsburgh Steelers defeated the Ravens to keep their playoff hopes alive, 16-13, and obviously the Monday night game cancellation.
Right.
And in the NFC playoff picture, it's actually rather simple. I'm actually surprised how simple it is. It's Seattle gets in with a win and a Detroit win. That's what they need.
Okay.
Detroit gets in with a Seattle loss and a Detroit win.
Mm.
Pretty simple.
Yep.
And even simpler, all Green Bay has to do is win and they're in. They don't need any other scenario. If Green Bay wins, they're automatically in the playoffs. So the NFL, I know you were going to jump into college scores real quick. Did you want to talk about the NFL schedule real quick?
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Fine, we'll wait. We'll move on over to Randy and the college football scores.
This was the last week of the college bowl games. They were all done as of last night. What do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Gotta love hearing counting on a
17,
podcast.
18.
Couldn't have that number ready to go, huh?
There was about 25.
Oh, about. You can't even get an accurate number?
I stopped counting because it bothered you. But yeah, about 25 bowl games played between last Tuesday and last night. So anyway, we had the Camilla Bowl where Buffalo defeated Georgia Southern 23-21. In the First Responders Bowl, it was Memphis over Utah State 38-10. In the Birmingham Bowl, it was East Carolina over Coastal Carolina 53-29. The Guaranteed Rate Bowl saw Wisconsin defeat Oklahoma State 24-17. In the Military Bowl, it was Duke over UCF 30-13. Holiday Bowl saw Oregon defeat North Carolina 28-27. In the Liberty Bowl, it was Arkansas over Kansas 55-53 in 3 overtimes. I did not see any of that game. I'm not sure what day that was on exactly. In the Texas Bowl, it was Texas Tech over Ole Miss 42-25. The Pinstripe Bowl, Minnesota over Syracuse 28-20. The Cheez-It Bowl, Florida State over Oklahoma 35-32. In the Alamo Bowl, it was Washington over Texas, 27-20. I love this one. Duke's Mayo Bowl. It's been around for a couple of years now. Maryland over NC State, 16-12. I understand they dump a big bucket of mayonnaise on the winning coach.
Yeah, and I saw that somebody chugged mayo in the stands or something.
Yeah. I like mayo, but not that much. In the Sun Bowl, it was Pittsburgh over UCLA, 37-35. In the Gator Bowl, it was Notre Dame over South Carolina, 45-38. Arizona Bowl, Ohio over Wyoming, 30-27 in overtime. In the Orange Bowl, it was Tennessee over Clemson, 31-14. Music City Bowl saw the only shutout of this year in bowl games, Iowa shutting out Kentucky 21-0. In the Sugar Bowl, it was Alabama over Kansas State, 45-20. Then on New Year's Eve, we had, or no, not New Year's Eve, it was the December 30th. You had the 2 semifinal bowl games. The Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl saw number 1 Georgia defeat number 4 Ohio State 42-41 when Ohio State missed a last-second field goal that would have won them the game.
Yeah, it was, and it happened right at midnight too. Like there's a lot of videos out there that the ball dropped and the missed field goal happened at the exact same time. So Ohio State was technically the first team to lose in 2023.
Oh, that was the 31st. Okay, I was thinking it was the 30th, but no, I guess that was the 31st, Saturday night. Okay, and then in the other semifinal game out in Arizona, it was the Fiesta Bowl, and number 3 TCU defeated number 2 Michigan 51-45. Now this game we watched pretty much.
I watched the first half. My girlfriend fell asleep because Michigan was getting the tar beat out of them. Yeah. But she fell asleep through 2 very controversial things that happened for Michigan. A touchdown that should have been counted.
So many crazy plays in that game.
But then to foul that play right up at the 1-yard line, a fumble.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, that was just unbelievable. And we went to a New Year's Eve party, so then we saw Michigan climb back into the game, and we watched it on my phone for a little bit. But then I missed the targeting call. Apparently there was another controversial play with a non-targeting call.
Yeah, at the very end, the very last play, Michigan had a 4th down, and they didn't make it, but it looked to me like the player for TCU lowered his helmet and put it right in the back of the Michigan player's head that had the ball. And they stopped and they reviewed it, and I was certain they were going to give him another play because of targeting. And they said, nope, no targeting on that. And I just shook my head. I'm like, if that's not targeting, the way he lowered his head, went right for the guy's helmet, I don't know.
Because I mean, you hate to blame officials for a game. I do think that touchdown was a big whiff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, if you're a good team, Michigan, you were the number 2 team in the country.
Yeah.
You got to overcome some of that stuff, and they just could. I'm rooting for TCU though.
Yeah.
A nice underdog story, and I mean,
Sure.
Obviously Michigan made it a game in the second half because Michigan's always been a second half team. But a funny stat that was thrown my way that fellow correspondent Aaron, from our podcast, he sent me was Michigan had not given up 21 plus points in a half all season long. They did it twice in one game against TCU. They allowed 21 points in the first half, 30 points in the second half. Huh. So, and now there's rumors of Jim Harbaugh leaving. And there was something a little earlier that supposedly he had talked with the Carolina Panthers owner, John Tepper, about maybe going to Carolina. So we'll see if that rumor goes true. But man,
Michigan just could not stop TCU.
No, TCU looked great.
Both teams had some really big plays.
Yeah.
It was a whole game full of big plays, but TCU made more of them. Big plays, long runs, long passes. Just they didn't have an answer for TCU. TCU acted like they were a team on a mission. They wanted to get to the national championship game, and well, they're there now. Let's see what they can do against number 1 Georgia.
Yeah.
In the national championship game this Monday night.
Yep.
And then on the 2nd, which was yesterday, because the NFL takes precedence on New Year's Day, you can forget your Rose Bowl tradition. The NFL's playing today, so you get pushed back a day. There were 4 bowl games on January 2nd. The Citrus Bowl saw LSU over Purdue 63-7. Wow, what a beatdown. In the Cotton Bowl, it was Tulane over USC 46-45, a 1-point game. I always like the Cotton Bowl now because we actually went to it. So every time I hear
now
Cotton
you got a
Bowl,
soft spot for it?
I think about where we sat in Texas Stadium when Western Michigan was there.
AT&T Stadium, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a game that holds a special place in my heart now because we were actually there. So yeah, Cotton Bowl, Tulane over USC 46-45. In the Rose Bowl, it was Penn State over Utah, 35-21. And finally, the ReliaQuest Classic. I think this is replacing the Outback Bowl because there was no Outback Bowl anymore. It was Mississippi State over Illinois, 19-10. And that's it for the bowl games this season. I mean, there's some, like the Hula Bowl and the
Senior Bowl,
those kind of all-star games. But for the actual bowl games themselves, those are done. Except over in Japan, where our man in Japan, Greg James, has provided us with the score of the Rice Bowl, which was played New Year's Day, maybe? I'm not sure exactly what day it was played. But anyway, it's the X-League Championship, where all the corporate teams over there get together and have a championship game. So this was played in the Tokyo Dome, where the NFL's played many exhibition games, preseason games over the years. But it was the Fujitsu Warriors over the Panasonic Impulse, 29-21. So if you want more details on that game, Greg is going to be talking quite a bit about it on his upcoming podcast. So you can go on Twitter to @GridironJapan and check out his podcast where he's going to review everything. He had
a lot of great pictures from
many pictures.
His party.
Yeah, he was. I think it was at his in-laws' house in Japan, and they were watching it on TV, and a lot of pictures of pizza. They had like a pizza party, and it wasn't exactly your Chicago deep dish style pizza, but it was some unique looking pizzas that they got from some restaurant, I guess, is where they came from. But very, very interesting stuff. So thank you, Greg, for providing us with that score. The Rice Bowl, X-League champions, Fujitsu Warriors, or Fujitsu Frontier over Panasonic Impulse. And that is it for this week's World of Football scoreboard.
Now, we do have one little piece of news that just kind of came out that I thought you might find interesting.
All right.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame was set at 8 o'clock tonight to announce the 15 modern-era player finalists for their Hall of Fame class of 2023. That has been delayed out of respect for the Bills and Damar Hamlin.
Okay.
It was going to be on NFL Network tonight, but they're postponing it. And I kind of skimmed the article. I just made sure to see when it was originally supposed to be up, which was 8 o'clock. And I guess it has been tentatively rescheduled for 8 o'clock Wednesday night now. They will reevaluate the situation Wednesday and determine if the timing is still appropriate or proceed with the announcement.
Okay.
So
very good.
so who knows? It could be delayed further, but Yeah, I saw that, and I figured you'd be interested in hearing of that delay.
That's a good bit of breaking news. Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, in NFL news, all season long we knew the entire schedule except for Week 18 next week, and they finally put together the schedule for Week 18, and that was released just the other day. And that's when we found out that the Lions-Packers game is going to be the last game of the season, the Sunday night game.
As of right now, who knows what'll happen? They still haven't tweaked the schedule, but as of right now, it will be the last game of the year.
Right.
Lions' first nationally televised game of the year after being the only team without one.
Other than Thanksgiving Day.
Other than Thanksgiving, but no other primetime evening games all season for the Lions. They were the only team not to get one, and now here we are. We got flexed into one the last week of the year.
Yep. So that should be good. I'm really looking forward to that game. In another bit of NFL news, the Commanders, can they do anything right? Next to the last game of the season, they unveil a new mascot. Why would you do that now? Why would you not wait until next season?
I don't know.
Why would you unveil a new mascot known as Major Tuddy, a pig in a military uniform, I guess?
It was like a Commander's T-shirt, and then he has like one of those old school...
Yeah, like an army helmet.
Well, it's like one of those old World War I helmets.
Right.
What it looked like.
But just the same. When you were showing me this, I thought, is this somebody's idea of a joke? Because what you showed me were like cartoon drawings of it. And I thought it was just somebody's idea of a joke. But then you showed me actual footage where he came out before the game onto the field and all this and that. And oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. Why now? Why in the last week, the last 2 weeks of the season, are you unveiling a mascot like that? Where's it been all season long? Why didn't you wait for next year? That whole organization is just a conundrum. I don't know what's going on in Washington right now. But that's everything I had for NFL news. You're looking at your phone. You got something else that's
No, I'm still,
over?
Obviously keep refreshing to see if there's any updated news, waiting for alerts if something happens, but nothing really as of yet. Like I said, that the Hall of Fame thing was a pretty big one.
Yeah. I didn't even know that announcement was coming right now, but I know that they always do, make a big deal out of the 15 finalists from Modern Era, and so it's probably a good thing that they just wait a day or so to see what happens with Damar Hamlin. I got one bit of college news. Alabama quarterback and 2021 Heisman Trophy winner Bryce Young has declared for the NFL draft this year. So I guess he's a junior this year. So giving up his senior season. But didn't the TCU quarterback Duggan, didn't he announce for the draft also? But he still played in the game.
You can still announce and play.
I thought once you announced, you couldn't play anymore.
No, you can still play. It's your last year of eligibility. You're just saying you declare for the draft at the end of the season.
Yeah, but once you declare, I thought you were off limits anymore.
Hold on. How many players have done that in postseason games? We've seen a lot. Some people don't play after they announce they're going to do it. But But I don't think that's a rule. That's definitely not a rule that I'm aware of. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you can still go, hey, just so everybody knows, I will declare for the draft at the end of the year. It's not like they signed any paperwork. It's not like they've started the process yet, but I think once you start going through that process, then you can't play. But I think it's all fine. You kept making a big deal about it. Like, what are you talking about? Like, of course you'll still play. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, and I guess Damar Hamlin's foundation has reached $4 million in donations now, so that's something else. Yeah, cool. I guess that was a couple hours ago, but I hadn't seen that yet, that it had reached that much. So another little breaking news thing real quick.
Okay. Moving on, Arena Football TV on YouTube, they posted a 2002 game, the Tampa Bay Storm at the Detroit Fury. Mouse Davis was the head coach of Detroit at the time, and Tim Markham was the head coach of the Tampa Bay Storm. Mark Champion and Jim Brandstetter were in the booth. They're known throughout the state of Michigan for calling University of Michigan games. They were there for a long time together doing Michigan, and they also did arena games. And the Detroit quarterback was a guy that I remember his name so clearly, Scott Semtemfelter.
Mm-hmm.
You remember us being there in Detroit and the crowd was just shouting his name, Semtemfelter. I did not know that he played at Lehigh, but that's where he came from. So yeah, check out that game, Tampa Bay Storm at the Detroit Fury from 2002, which is up now on Arena Football TV on YouTube. We have a couple of birthdays today for January 3rd. Coach Hank Stram was born on this date in 1923. He passed away in 2005 at the age of 81. I didn't realize it had been that long that he passed away. He was a running back in college at Purdue, and he went on to be an assistant coach at Purdue, as well as Notre Dame, Miami, and SMU. He was the head coach of the AFL's Dallas Texans from 1960 to 1962, and he won the 1962 AFL title in double overtime. And then they left town and never really celebrated because they moved to Kansas City and became the Kansas City Chiefs. And he went there and appeared in, took his team to the first Super Bowl where they lost to Green Bay, but they won Super Bowl IV, and he was mic'd up for that game from NFL Films. And if you have never seen that before, you have got to go check out him on the sidelines being mic'd up for the game. That was something that was totally innovative at the time. Now everybody's mic'd up, players, coaches, officials, everybody has a microphone. But back in 1969 when that game was played, or 1970, that was just a phenomenal thing to have done, and that's incredible footage. He was such a great person for giving you all these sound bites, a lot of his sayings and stuff. But he was the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs from 63 to 74, and he finished his career as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints from 1976 to 1977. He was inducted into the Chiefs Hall of Fame in 1987, the Purdue Intercollegiate Athletic Hall of Fame in 1996, and the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2003, just 2 years before he passed away. And I actually saw Hank Stram coach the New Orleans Saints against the Detroit Lions at the Silverdome in 1977. I'll never forget that. And then the other birthday for today, Eli Manning turns 41 years old today. He played, of course, his college football at Ole Miss like his dad. He was selected by the San Diego Chargers with the first overall pick in the 2004 draft, but he didn't really want to play for them, and they eventually traded him to the New York Giants, I think the same day. And he played all of his 16 seasons with the Giants from 2004 to 2019, and he won 2 Super Bowls, beating Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl. That is an incredible feat right there. So thank you, Eli, for keeping Tom Brady from getting 2 more Super Bowls under his belt. If you want to see more of Eli, you can watch Eli's Places on ESPN Plus, and he's also part of the Manning cast, of course, which they didn't have one last night. I thought about that too. With the way that game went last night. I don't know what they would have done. It would have been very uncomfortable for them as well as everybody else that was involved in that game. So I guess it was fortunate they didn't have a Manning cast last night, but they are going to have one in the playoffs. So we'll get to see them one more time this year. Okay, obituaries. We've got a couple of them this week. This is where we take a moment and honor those who've made the world of football a better place. And we're going to start out with Art McNally, the first NFL game official to ever be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's passed away at the age of 97. McNally started out as a field judge in 1959 and then served as a referee from 1960 to 1967. After that, he took the position of the NFL Supervisor of Officials until he retired from that job in 1991. After 1991, McNally became the Supervisor of Officials for the World League of American Football. He returned to the NFL in 1995 as an Assistant Supervisor of Officiating and continued in that role until 2007. From 2007 to 2015, he was an officiating observer and a trainer. McNally is a member of the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame and was the first recipient of the National Association of Sports Officials Golden Whistle Award in 1988. He was a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's class of 2022, so just last August was inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
All right, our second obituary is that of John Kinch, a running back in the Canadian Football League for 5 seasons, has passed away at the age of 68. Kinch was born and raised in Canada, but played his college football at Youngstown State. He was the 7th overall pick in the 1977 CFL draft by the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He played for 4 different CFL teams between 1977 and 1978, those being the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Toronto Argonauts, Saskatchewan Roughriders, and Ottawa Roughriders. An ankle injury ended his playing career.
And finally, I took this one myself because of the difficulty in pronouncing the name. Uche Nwaneri, a guard in the NFL for 7 seasons, has passed away at the young age of 38. They think he might have had some sort of a heart attack or cardiac arrest or something for such a young player. Nwaneri played college football at Purdue and was selected in the 5th round of the 2007 NFL draft by the Jacksonville Jaguars. He played in Jacksonville from 2007 to 2013 and appeared in 104 games, starting 92 of them. And that's it for obituaries this week. Anything else before we get into this week's history lesson?
Nope, still nothing breaking yet. I'm keeping an eye out.
Okay. This week's history lesson, we answer the burning question, what in the world is a Coastal Carolina Chanticleer? Every once in a while, a college will break from a traditional mascot name like the Bulldogs, the Huskies, or the Eagles, and come up with something totally unique and out of the ordinary. Such is the case with Coastal Carolina University in Conway, South Carolina, a member of the Sun Belt Conference. The story goes like this. Cal Maddox was an English teacher at Coastal Carolina when it opened in 1962. Coastal Carolina began as a 2-year college of its parent institution, the University of South Carolina. At the time, Coastal Carolina had no athletic teams or athletic department, so there was no need for a mascot. But in 1963, the school formed a basketball team, and Maddox was thrust into the role of basketball coach with no experience. Luckily, several players on the team had a great deal of experience playing basketball, so they did not require much coaching. Maddox compared the team to the character of Chanticleer from the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. He was an English writer and poet who lived in the late 1300s. The book is a collection of stories and fables, and one is called Chanticleer and the Fox. It is about a rooster named Chanticleer who must outwit a hungry fox in order to save his own life. In 1964, Maddox suggested that the school newspaper change its name from the Fledgling to the Chanticleer, which it did. The basketball team began using the name Chanticleers as the team mascot. Maddox thought that they could come up with a better name, however, so he asked members of the team to make some suggestions for a new team mascot. The names Seahawks and Sharks were suggested, but the team eventually decided that they liked the name Chanticleers and kept the name. The name also fits well because Coastal Carolina began as a branch of the University of South Carolina, whose mascot is the Gamecocks. Coastal Carolina fielded its first football team in 2003. Over the years, students at the school have been asked several times if they wanted to change the mascot, but the answer has always been no. So now you know that it was an English teacher who was responsible for coming up with the school mascot named Chauncey the Chanticleer. And it was all based on the character of a rooster from a classic piece of English literature.
Yeah, very interesting. I hadn't heard of Coastal Carolina till they had a great season last year.
Yeah,
that kind of put them on the map. I mean, kind of hear about them in passing, but never to the extent like last season and maybe some of this year. But I thought it was a cool logo. Didn't know the story behind it, but very fascinating.
Yep. Okay, let's move on to our upcoming events calendar. It's getting smaller all the time.
Yeah, week by week.
Sunday, January 8th, the NFL regular season ends, at least as of our recording today. On that same day, Sunday, January 8th, the FCS championship game is going to be played in Frisco, Texas, between North Dakota State and South Dakota State. Monday, January 9th, the College Football National Championship game at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Number 1 Georgia versus number 3 TCU. Who saw that matchup coming? Like you said, I'm rooting for TCU.
At this point, I'm pulling for TCU as well, even though they beat our home state, Michigan. But
I think it'll be good for college football if somebody like TCU comes out of nowhere.
We don't have a back-to-back national champion.
It's not Georgia. It's not Alabama. It's not Michigan. It's not Notre Dame. It's TCU. Give them a national championship.
A team that was 5-7 last year.
Yeah.
And I think this is their coach's first year there, so heck of a turnaround, heck of a Cinderella story.
Yep.
I mean, some people were even debating should they have been in the college football playoff at all after losing their conference championship game, and it was very clear that they deserved it.
Yep.
And look what craziness can happen in a playoff. Like, you give a team like that a shot, they can upset the number 2 team in the country, and can they beat the number 1 team in the country? If they are able to do that, I think it'd be great for college football. Because I don't really want a back-to-back national champion in college football. I'm tired of your Alabamas and your Georgias,
right?
And what other big schools that have won national, like Ohio State, Clemson. Like, I was tired of all them. It seemed like them every year. You go through that list of the last champions, and all of a sudden you get to TCU.
Yeah,
the Horned Frogs won a national champion. I think that'll be great.
Yep.
And I really dug their all-white uniforms last week.
They looked
pretty sharp.
Yep. Okay, let's see. Sunday, February 5th, the Pro Bowl flag football game in Las Vegas, and we're all excited to see that.
Yeah.
Sunday, February 12th, Super Bowl 57 in Glendale, Arizona. And then Saturday, February 18th, just a week later, the XFL season kicks off.
And you guys can bet. Randy and I got something planned for some XFL stuff coming up. I got a great idea, and I think it'll be a little fun.
Man, I haven't really seen the whole schedule yet, but we need to pick out a game to go to.
Oh, God. What's the closest? Is St. Louis the closest game again?
Still the closest.
Because that worked out so well last time.
Well, maybe we better go to an early season game.
That was an early season game.
Well,
it was 5 weeks into the season.
Yeah, and no, it was 6 weeks into the season, and they canceled after 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Yeah, I'd like to go to a game this year.
So what you're saying is we probably should pick the first weekend of games to guarantee we go one.
But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to checking out a game. All right, that's it.
Yep,
that's it for this week. Any last?
No more breaking news as of right now, but I'm sure, hour by hour, I'm sure there'll be new stuff, new statements coming. So
yep. Okay, well, that's all the time we've got for this week. If you learned something during this podcast about the incredible amount of diversity that exists in the world of football, even as far away as Japan, then we've done our job. Visit our website at theworldoffootball.com for news, links, upcoming events, original articles, videos, and more. Our email is info@theworldoffootball.com.
Go over to Facebook, hit the like button on The World of Football Kalamazoo. Do a search for us, you'll find us. You can also follow our Twitter, which the address there is at TWOF Kalamazoo. New episodes of this podcast are posted on Tuesdays and are available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. And you can search The World of Football Kalamazoo on YouTube to find us, or simply use the handle youtube.com/@TheWorldOfFootball, all one word. We are now also on Amazon Music as of a couple weeks ago. So simply just ask your Alexa to play the World of Football podcast, and you can be listening to our dulcet tones in your living room, in your hallways, in your workspace, wherever you have an Alexa device playing. We could be there with you. Feel free to subscribe, rate, review, give us a like on every single platform. Leave us a comment on any platform, because we love having football conversations with all of you out there. And though right now, the conversation should be on the health and safety
more serious than fun right now
of Damar Hamlin.
Yep.
That's all I could think about, and I know it's a tough thing, to focus on anything else. But that's the important thing right now, is that he gets better.
Yep. And
we'll see what other dominoes will happen after that. But as of right now, just keep your focus on him. Keep your thoughts with him. However you go about, your belief system, praying or whatnot. If you don't, just stay positive vibes and energy, whatever, all towards that family and everybody being okay.
Yeah. And remember, folks, some people may love football more than we do, but nobody loves more football than we do. Until next time, I'm Randy Snow.
And I've been Adam Snow.
And we'll see you all next week.